Facing History in Ourselves is a international nonprofit professional development organization. I've been working with Mamaroneck High School for about 14 years. And Facing History has been working with Mamaroneck High School for about 15 or 16 years. We've looked at many Facing History resources, including the Holocaust, the eugenics movement, apartheid in South Africa, the civil rights movement. The group has met for roughly one day a month during the school year. Over the years, I've been incredibly struck by the commitment of the Mamaroneck high school teachers. And it's not just a commitment, it's a real passion as well as commitment for the craft of teaching. But from the Facing History perspective, it's a passion for using teaching as a vehicle for making the world a better place, for helping their students gain more voice, for helping their students be better members of the community. The faculty broke up into 8 groups to get the staff and teachers to talk to one another, both about their own identity, but also how their identity affected their teaching, both in terms of how students looked at them and how they thought of the perceptions of their students. So we used a variety of resources to talk about that. Something that Facing History does is something called an identity chart, which is a way of putting out on paper quickly some of the ways, the markers that you identify yourself with and think about yourself, and then having an opportunity to share with other people. And then we used a cartoon called Street Calculus, which is really about 2 people encountering each other on a street and having to seeing what the calculus or what's going through their head as they make their choices about whether to greet the person or move to the other side of the street. And then we looked at A Danger of a Single Story by Chimamanda Adichie as a way of thinking about the stereotypes that not only that we have, but specifically when we think about our students or we think about our as a faculty, what are the single stories that we hold, and how does it again shape our teaching?
Things that made it such a successful day is the relationship we have with Facing History in Ourselves. There's a lot of trust in our school community for this organization and the way they approach difficult topics.
We talked about how we all have implicit bias, whether or not, regardless of our background, there's some things that there's a story that we might have heard about someone or something, and that's what we believe, and then we bring that to the table. We're told something about a country, and we often just remember that story, and then you meet someone from that country, and you automatically go to what you were told. In my case, because I'm an immigrant, I came from the Dominican Republic, I associate with people that meet me, like, oh, you don't look Dominican, or, oh, I've been to the Dominican Republic, I've been to the beach. Do you know that beach? And I'm like, well, not really, because I'm from a completely different side of the country. So often people don't mean to offend or to hurt somebody's feelings, but we have to be conscious of that.
One of the things for me was, like, in a math classroom, there's a bias, even gender bias, that, boys versus girls, and who's more likely to participate, not likely to participate. And just being aware of that can kind of change sometimes how we approach the kids, how we encourage them to get involved.
As a teacher, I want to make sure that I try and be as inclusive as possible in my classroom, and to just ensure that all of my students feel welcomed, and in spite of all of our differences, can kind of be engaged in the classroom and know that I won't be unknowingly biased towards any one or group of students.
We asked teachers to respond to a survey about Superintendent's Conference Day, and the overwhelming, over 98% of the teachers responded positively. They said it was an excellent day or a good day. So we know that we have made some really important steps in beginning conversations regarding implicit bias and what that means in a school system and what it means to us personally. We're going to continue having these conversations I've already begun conversations with David Levy to talk about what this will look like next year as a faculty, as we continue our own professional development, and then how we begin to have these conversations with students, which is not to say they're not happening. They are happening, but how to do it in a more systemic way at Mamaroneck High School.